What's up, guys? This is the Osmo.com Night Shift Podcast. We're talking some MLB for Tuesday, August 28th. Big 15-game slate. I'm going to go through each game, talk about some pitchers, possible stacks. We'll have the MLB strategy video with Josh Engelman and myself. We will have the live stream before lock. I'll be on that with Chris. And we will have the spotlight hitters, pitchers, stacks. We'll have the it's Tuesday, so it'll be the top stack article from Osmo himself. Ownership projections, rankings will be out first thing in the morning. Let's get into this 15-gamer. White Sox and Yankees. We've got James Shields going up against Lance Lynn. Shields, someone that people are very in love with picking on. I mean, I'm not as much as the average person, but I certainly understand it here with the wind blowing out. It's 90 degrees in Yankee Stadium, near 6-run total. So there are a bunch of spots today. So there are a bunch of spots on this Tuesday slate, but I'm wondering who's going to become the chalk. We've got a Wrigley win game. We've got a game in Texas. So it's going to be interesting, but I mean, it's hard not to like these Yankees bats. Stanton, Hicks, Andahar, Neil Walker batting fifth for only 3,500, and then Gleyber Torres, one of my personal favorites, for 4,100. So Yankee stack firmly in play. We've got Lance Lynn on the other side is 7,800. I am lukewarm on Lance Lynn. He's a decent price coming off a bad start. But this matchup against the White Sox is just one I want to continually attack. I have to assume Lynn's going to be one of the most owned guys in his tier, in the 8K and below tier. It makes sense. I mean, there's a decent amount of righties in here for him. Just a bad lineup overall. Good bullpen behind him, so he could have run support. I mean, there's a lot of things going Lynn's way. If we see 5 or 6 righties in there for the White Sox, which is looking like we are, then I'm going to be on Lynn, but not super thrilled about playing him at chalk. Blue Jays and Orioles, Thomas Panon against Jeffrey Ramirez. Panon is 7,300, a little bit overpriced, but he looked good in his start against Baltimore. I believe that was his last start. So just pulling up some of his stuff. He had he had 7 innings, 3 strikeouts, so the results were good. Not a bunch of strikeouts, but a 13% swinging strike rate. He threw over 100 pitches, 108 pitches, actually. So, I mean, he stretched out, decent price for him. He makes a decent pivot from Lance Lynn if Lynn's going to be in the 20% range. I doubt this guy's going to be very highly owned at all, and then we know how bad some of these Baltimore bats are. You've got a bunch of strikeouts. VR, Mancini, Chris Davis, Renato Nunez, if he's in the lineup, Tim Beckham. These guys all strike out well above average against lefties. So going to be playing some Thomas Panon, if that's even how you pronounce his name. Jeffrey Ramirez, 4,300. He just pitched a couple days ago, so I don't even think you can play him even if he goes here. So it's just you can't play a guy that just pitched just a couple days ago, so not much to talk about there. McKinney is only 3,900 on Toronto's side, and Morales just on that crazy home run streak. Up to 5,300 is kind of crazy, but I actually like Randall Grichuk if he's in the lineup for 4,500, and Lourdes Gurriel for 4,200. Pretty good hitting environment in Baltimore, 90-plus degrees here, and wind blowing out as well. Nationals and Phillies, we've got Max Scherzer going up against Aaron Nola. Probably going to lay off bats here. Scherzer looks like peak Scherzer to me. He's had a run of really nice starts. Swinging strikes, everything up for him. Really don't need to talk about him that much. He's the best play on the slate if salary's not a thing, and he's not even that expensive. 12.6 for him isn't that crazy. I have no issue paying that price. Nola on the other side is 10.6. Kind of expensive here. Against the Nats, a 3.6 run total for the Nationals is a lot of respect, but the strikeouts, I think, are going to be an issue for Nola. And then there are some other options in this range, so I probably won't be going to much Nola, if any at all. But on the same in the same game, probably won't be going to many Nationals bats either. Twins and Indians, we've got Kyle Gibson going up against Carlos Carrasco. Gibson, 7,200. Man, it seems like he pitches against the Indians like once every couple weeks. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but it seems like he goes up against the Indians for like half of his starts. I can't use him here. Gibson's someone I really respect. I think he's a really good pitcher, and he's kind of showed that this year, but not up against Lindor, Brantley, Ramirez on a 15-game slate. I don't think you need to get that cute. Wind blowing out here to 90 degrees. Just a lot of things not going Gibson's way. I think Carrasco is playable in GPPs, even after that bad start against Boston. It was in Fenway. We can kind of give him a pass for that. I'm not holding that against anyone in Fenway this year. It's just been a really tough place to pitch. Before that, he was just mowing people down at least 6 innings in each of his prior 6 starts before that, at least 8 strikeouts in all of them. You can talk about someone who's just missing bats. He's doing that all over the place. So a Twins lineup that, for all intents and purposes, is not great. They've got a couple strikeouts in there in Austin and Cave, but I think Carrasco can really strike out anyone if he's on. So for GPPs, I don't mind using Carrasco. I prefer him over Nola. Brewers and Reds, we've got who do we have? We've got Junior Guerra going up against Anthony DeSclafani. Guerra's 5,900, DeSclafani 6,900. I don't want to go to either of these guys. I'm sure some ownership on both sides, probably more on the Guerra side because he's cheaper and he's the favorite, but just a bad park and 2 guys that really struggle against lefties. And then Guerra really struggles on the road. Kind of talked about it last time out, but huge splits home and road this year. And I mean, I like Schebler, I like Scooter Gennett, Eugenio Suarez, Joey Votto looks to be back in for this game as well. So the Reds are actually one of my favorite stacks. I like that they only have a 4.6 run total, and hopefully we won't see too much ownership on them because of Guerra's success in his last start. DeSclafani is 6,900, and again, just real issues against lefties for DeSclafani. Giving up almost 40% hard contact, bunch of fly balls, line drives all over the place. Like, he's just not that great of a pitcher, but he can miss bats at times, so that's why I get why people want to play him. 5 total against him here. I love Yelich. I love Travis Shaw, Eric Thames, Mike Moustakas. Brewers lineup's just pretty deep, and I don't want to mess with it. I like both sides of this for hitting, so that's where I will be. I think it may go somewhat overlooked with some of the other great spots, and I'll be gladly over the field on both teams. All right, Marlins and Red Sox. Jose Urena going up against Brian Johnson. Here we go. Urena is 5K. Brian Johnson's 7K. Probably not going to either of these guys either. Kind of respect the Marlins against lefties. They've got some good hitters in there with Anderson and Castro, and Real Muto can all hit lefties pretty well. I'm not the biggest Brian Johnson fan, but he is a minus 235 favorite, so he's going to have some steam as the day goes on. It's understandable, but I just think it's not a real upside play, and he may even get more ownership than Lance Lynn. I'm really interested to see how this shakes out on a 15-gamer. Urena, man, really tough spot. Like I said with Carrasco, you can give players passes for pitching bad in Fenway Park, and I think Urena's going to have a rough go of it here. Another guy that gets blown up by lefties regularly. So Benintendi and Moreland really stick out to me, and then Mookie Betts, JD Martinez, and Xander Bogaerts are always in play. So the Red Sox up there with some of the top stacks on the night. Tampa Bay and Atlanta. Ryan Stanek going to open for Tampa against Julio Teheran. Stanek, 4,300. Can't really play him, although he is really good. He does a good job as an opener, misses a ton of bats. So kind of a hindrance to the Atlanta stack, in my opinion. I don't like to target this Tampa bullpen when they do the opener thing, it seems like they've had some success with it, and bullpen arms aren't guys I want to target. So anyways, not really on the Braves. And then Teheran is 8,200. I would like to play him here, but I think just a few too many lefties. Looking like 5, maybe 6 lefties in this lineup. And I just don't want to target Teheran at this price against a bunch of lefties, because he's much better against righties. I mean, he can strike out lefties, but the quality of contact he allows to lefties is really concerning. Let's go to the next game, Dodgers and Rangers. We've got Walker Buehler going up against Ariel Jurado. Buehler 10-2 in Texas. I don't think I'm going to use him here. He is a very, very good pitcher. Limits hard contact. His xFIP is only 320 on the season, so super impressive stuff out of Buehler so far, but not in Texas. I can't do it. Almost 100 degrees here. I think you've got Gallo, Profar, Mazzara, Chu, Odor. Just such a tough place to pitch, so not for 10-2. I won't be going to Walker Buehler. I actually like a Texas stack if it's going to go under-owned. This is the best hitting environment on the slate, maybe outside of Wrigley, depending on what you think about that wind. But, I like those Texas bats that I mentioned. Even against a good pitcher in Buehler, I just want to target good hitting environments, and this is probably the best, maybe, or definitely top 2. Jurado, 4,200. Just cannot play him, obviously. Dodgers are my favorite stack of the night, and right now it's really not that close. Jurado just has nothing. He doesn't miss bats. He gives up hard hits. He can't get chases. His xFIP super high. His K rate is under 10% for the season. He's got 3 straight games with a sub 3% swinging strike rate. It just doesn't belong right now. Survived last start, but I don't see him surviving this Dodgers lineup. Like, I'm going 1 through 9, literally like every single player in this Dodgers lineup, all the way down through Taylor and Puig at 8 and 9. Mets and Cubs, we've got Jacob deGrom going up against Cole Hamels, and so I don't think you're going to be able to use either of these guys with any confidence. deGrom is just too expensive for a Wrigley win game. The totals are going to be up higher than we're accustomed to against 2 pitchers that are very, very good. So I don't really want to go to deGrom. I don't want to go to Hamels. And then the Mets bats are so cheap. Once again, 13-mile-an-hour winds blowing straight out, 85 degrees. It's humid in Chicago. Flores, 3,600. Rosario, 3,300. Todd Frazier, 4,100. Even Jay Bruce, lefty-lefty. I mean, I don't love lefty-lefty against Hamels, but, man, they're going to have a decent total. And, I mean, any sort of fly ball hit with any, like, if it's squared up even a little bit, it's got a good chance of getting out in Wrigley with that wind howling out to center. And then the Cubs bats, I think I'm going to hold off on them for the most part. I would guess they're going to get a lot of ownership, but it's kind of the same thing as Monday night, where I think they're going to be too highly owned. They're going to be over-owned, in my opinion. So if ownership comes out and they're all sub 10% for some reason, then maybe I'll have a different I'll have to change that up and get some Cubs in my lineup, but I'm guessing they're going to be the highest owned stack of the night just because they are one of the highest owned stacks of the night just because their prices are too cheap. There's Scherzer on the slate. There's other expensive pitchers in decent spots like Carrasco. And so people want to fit in these cheap bats with a huge total. Oakland and Houston, we have Edwin Jackson going up against Charlie Morton. Jackson, 6,700. No interest in him. Looking at some of his numbers to righties, I actually really like a Houston stack. Total near 5, but not quite at 5, so hoping it sticks below 5, and then many people do not pay attention to that on big slates. So Jackson, 18.3% K rate against righties, so that's fine. I mean, that's respectable. But you look at the quality of contact, 39.6% hard contact for Jackson against righties this year. Woba only 289, but a line drive percentage, one of the highest on the slate against righties. We got 30 pitchers here. So 28.7% line drive rate for Jurado. for Edwin Jackson. Sorry, Jackson's not as bad as Jurado. I don't know why I have Ariel Jurado on the mind, but I really like those top 4 Astros. I'm going to be looking to stack them while people are off of them, and a 15-game slate is a perfect time to do that. They're not that expensive. Bregman's $5,300, but everyone else $4,700 and below. So give me some Astros on this huge slate. I think they are one of the highest upside teams, and wind blowing out here if the roof is open. So looks like a really fun spot for Houston. Morton, 9,500. He's someone where he can sort of transcend matchups, not someone that I'm just going to avoid because it is a tough strikeout matchup. But I do wish there were more lefties in this order. For Oakland, he strikes out lefties at over 30%. And righties for Morton on the season, he's just at 23.4%. So not terrible by any means. A lot of ground balls to righties, but I just worry that his upside is a little bit limited with all these righties in the lineup. Pittsburgh and St. Louis, we've got Ivan Nova going up against Jack Flaherty. Hot weather here, man. It's hot all around. Nova is 5,300 in St. Louis. And I, just by looking at this, and you look at who Nova is, he's fine against righties. He's very not fine against lefties, really bad against lefties. So you've got Carpenter in there and Colton Wong, and then everyone else, including Flaherty, the pitcher, is from the right side. So 5,300 for Nova, I have some interest, and he's going to allow you to fit in a ton of bats. He can go 90, 95 pitches if things are going well. They usually don't let him go past 6 innings, but if he gets a couple strikeouts along the way, for a punt, $5,300 price against a bunch of righties, going to have me some Ivan Nova. Hopefully he's not chalk when I wake up tomorrow morning. Flaherty for 10-4. Talk about someone who's missing a ton of bats. In the month of August, a 36.3% whiffs per swing rate ranks 4th amongst all starting pitchers in the month of August. So right behind Bauer and Blake Snell, obviously 2 fantastic pitchers. So Flaherty, someone that I don't think many people will be on, but he's going to be, or I'm going to split my exposure, it's looking like, with Flaherty and Carrasco in this price range. I like both of them a ton. And I have a sneaky suspicion that we'll get Flaherty at about 5% ownership, which is really, really attractive. Doesn't have quite Scherzer upside, but I think he can get 30 here against a Pirates team that's been awful against righties over the last month. Just a 75 WRC plus, a 112 ISO, and a 22.2% K rate. Detroit and Kansas City, we have James Shields going up against Jake Junis. Not James Shields. Matt Boyd going up against Jake Junis. Boyd is 7,600, Junis 7,100. Got some rain here, but humid and wind blowing out. Against Boyd, I like Whit Merrifield a ton and Salvador Perez, but the rest of this Kansas City lineup is just super underwhelming. And then against Junis, while there's a case to play Junis, I don't think you need to get that cute, especially if the weather looks even kind of bad, just because it's a 15-game slate. You really do not want to mess with weather, and you're going to need a huge score to take down anything on this slate. So against Junis, I'm looking to target him with Nico Goodrum for 3,600 and Candelario for 3,800 leading off. So some value there on Detroit. Even though they're not great hitters, there are a couple guys that I will be using against Junis. Colorado and LA, the Angels. Kyle Freeland going up against, looks like Tyler Skaggs, although it's not confirmed just yet. There's no total out for this game. Regardless, I don't think I'll be targeting heavily against Kyle Freeland, just someone I don't play bats against, even in Coors for the most part. I will play Trout. He'll be in my player pool, but the rest of these guys will not be popping up for me. I just have a lot of respect for Freeland. He's super frustrating when he's got it going and he's creating ground balls. May not be doing it with strikeouts, but the quality of contact is usually not there. And then if Skaggs is on the mound, I have some interest in Arenado, Story, and LeMahieu, but I won't talk too much about it because we don't even know if Skaggs is going to be in this game. Seattle and San Diego, we've got Felix Hernandez going up against Jacob Nix, not Jake Nix. Hernandez is 5,500 coming off a nice start against the Astros. I don't like playing him on the road, but 5,500 as a minus 135 favorite against the Padres, where a lot of righty bats. I mean, you have to at least consider Felix Hernandez. That's why I think that Nova is going to be lower owned, and I kind of like Nova a little bit better. People will see the park and the pricing. They'll see the park that Felix gets to pitch in, and then they're about the same price. So people will just go to Felix. He's coming off a nice start. So if I'm right about that, then that's why I like the Nova pivot. But Felix certainly in play here. I mean, it's hard not to be for that price and being stretched out against this awful Padres team. Nix is someone I won't be touching. Even though there's no Nelson Cruz in the lineup, still a lot of respectable hitters. And Nix is giving up 40% hard contact in total. So I like Cano, I like Kyle Seager, and then Mitch Haniger leading off for just under 5K. Arizona and San Francisco, Clay Buchholz going up against Madison Bumgarner, last game of the night, and there's really not much that I want to talk about here. I'm not targeting a ton against Buchholz, especially not with these San Francisco hitters. Just no one really jumps out to me. My model doesn't like any of them, and you can kind of see why. Just a bunch of subpar hitters besides Brandon Belt, really. And then against Bumgarner, he had a good start, and I've kind of wanted to get onto him. He's coming off a nice start, but that was against the Mets. They don't have anyone close to as good as Pollock and Goldschmidt, and I'm really worried about those two guys in this, even in this park against Bumgarner. He still struggles with hard contact against righties, and I will be playing those two guys, Pollock and Goldschmidt, but I probably won't be getting to full stacks on either side, certainly not on the San Francisco side, but enough respect for Bumgarner in that park where I'm probably not going to Arizona full stacks. All right, that's going to do it for the night shift, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Tune into the strategy video tomorrow with Josh and myself. We will have the Spotlight Hitters, Pitchers, and Stacks out. Top stack article for the Big 15 Gamer from Osimo. We'll have the ownership projections, the player rankings, and a lot more to come as we go through this transition period. So hit me up on Twitter if you have any questions. You can hit up the osimo.com Twitter account as well. We'll get back to you. Good luck, guys. We'll talk to you in the morning.